Search your establishment. We've received a complaint.
Do you have a warrant, officer?
I don't need a warrant. I'm conducting an investigation. Step aside.
The Fourth Amendment says you do. You're not coming in without one.
I need to see your kitchen. Now. The officer's hand rested on his belt, fingers drumming against the radio holster. His jaw was set, eyes scanning the dining room like he owned it. Do you have a warrant? The question came quietly. No aggression, no fear, just a question. I don't need a warrant. This is a health and safety inspection. Health inspections are conducted by the health department. You're a police officer. The officer's expression hardened. His shoulders squared. You really want to do this? Because I can make things very difficult for you. I'm not obstructing anything. I'm asking for legal justification. Legal justification? The officer's voice rose slightly, irritation bleeding through. I'm giving you a lawful order. Open the kitchen or I'll cite you for obstruction. Under what statute? Silence. Brief. Uncomfortable. You people always have an excuse. The officer stepped closer, invading the space between them. I don't care if you think you know the law. I enforce it. And right now, you're interfering with an official investigation. What investigation? That's none of your concern. If I'm the subject, it's absolutely my concern. The officer's radio crackled. He ignored it. His eyes never left the restaurant owner's face, searching for submission. For the moment, the resistance would crack. Didn't. Last chance, the officer said. Let me in or we escalate. The owner's voice remained level, almost clinical. Then I'll need your badge number. It was a Tuesday evening in South Minneapolis, late September. The air outside still carried summer's weight. Humid, thick, clinging to skin. Inside Bistro Marais, a small French-Somali fusion restaurant on Nicollet Avenue, the dinner rush had just tapered off. Cloth napkins lay folded on empty tables. The scent of cardamom and seared lamb fat lingered in the air, mixing with the faint metallic hum of refrigeration units cycling in the back. Officer Derek Hanson had been with the Minneapolis Police Department for 9 years. Precinct 5. Patrol Division. His record was clean technically. No formal discipline. No sustained complaints. But his personnel file held 17 citizen complaints, most dismissed due to insufficient evidence or failure to cooperate by the complainants. The pattern was invisible to anyone not looking for it. Hanson had a reputation. Other officers called him thorough. Community activists called him something else. He was known for extending traffic stops, for asking questions that had nothing to do with the reason for contact, for showing up at businesses on the edge of his jurisdiction with vague explanations about concerns or reports. On this particular evening, Hanson had received no dispatch call, no complaint, no warrant. He simply walked into Bistro Marais at 8:47 p.m., asked to speak with the owner, and announced his intention to inspect the premises. The restaurant sat on a block that had changed rapidly over the last 5 years. Old warehouses converted into lofts, coffee shops with minimalist interiors, yoga studios, and restaurants, small, independent, run by immigrants and first-generation entrepreneurs trying to carve out a foothold in a neighborhood that still remembered what it used to be. Hanson had been through the area before, multiple times. His patrol logs showed frequent community engagement, stops at minority-owned businesses, often with no incident report filed afterward. Just presence, just questions, just the slow, invisible pressure of authority reminding people who held it. When he entered Bistro Marais, the dining room was nearly empty. 2 couples finishing dessert, a server wiping down the bar. Soft jazz played from a corner speaker. Everything was calm, routine, ordinary. That calm shattered the moment Hanson walked past the host's stand without waiting, his boots heavy on the hardwood floor, and demanded access to the kitchen. The owner, standing near the bar, looked up. No panic, no sudden movement, just a pause, a brief assessment, and then the question that started everything. Do you have a warrant? Hanson wasn't used to that. Most people folded. Most people apologized. Most people opened doors and answered questions and let authority move through their lives like weather, inevitable, uncontrollable. But this owner didn't fold. And Hanson, conditioned by years of compliance, by a system that rarely questioned his decisions, made his first mistake. He assumed the resistance would break. It was a small assumption, almost invisible, but it carried weight, because in that moment Hanson wasn't just enforcing the law, he was enforcing his expectation of submission. And when that expectation wasn't met, his frustration became visible. His tone sharpened. His body language shifted from procedural to personal. He had done this before, dozens of times, and it had always worked. But not tonight. Amina Osman had owned Bistro Marais for 3 years. She was 34, born in Mogadishu, raised in Minneapolis after her family resettled when she was 7. She spoke 3 languages fluently. She had a degree in hospitality management from the University of Minnesota and a culinary certificate from Le Cordon Bleu's online program. She had worked in kitchens since she was 16, prep cook, line cook, sous chef, and had saved for nearly a decade to open her own place. The restaurant was small, 32 seats, a menu that changed seasonally. Reviews on Yelp averaged 4.7 stars. The health department had inspected the kitchen 4 months prior and found 0 violations. Business was steady. Not explosive, but sustainable. She employed 6 people. She paid above minimum wage. She offered health insurance after 6 months. Amina was not a lawyer. She had never been arrested. She had never filed a lawsuit. But she was not naive. She had grown up watching her father, an engineer in Somalia, a cab driver in Minneapolis, navigate a system that treated him as perpetually suspicious. She had watched him pulled over 7 times in 2 years for routine stops that never resulted in tickets. She had watched him questioned at airports, at banks, at government offices, always with the same polite, patient mask he wore to survive. And she had learned. She learned that compliance didn't guarantee safety. She learned that silence didn't guarantee respect. She learned that the law, as written, was not the same as the law as enforced. So when Officer Hanson demanded entry to her kitchen, Amina didn't react emotionally. She didn't shout. She didn't insult. She asked a question. And when Hanson dismissed that question, Amina asked another. She kept her voice level. Her hands remained visible, resting lightly on the bar. She made no sudden movements. She didn't step forward or back. She simply stood in place and spoke in complete sentences, using words that couldn't be misinterpreted. Under what statute are you authorized to conduct this search? Hanson's eyes narrowed. I don't need to explain the law to you. I'm not asking you to explain it. I'm asking you to cite it. Minnesota Health Code. Health code enforcement is delegated to the health department. You're not a health inspector. I'm conducting an investigation. Into what? That's confidential. Amina paused. She glanced at the 2 remaining customers, who had stopped eating and were now watching the exchange. The server had disappeared into the back. The jazz music continued, oblivious. If you're investigating a crime, Amina said, you need probable cause. If you're executing a warrant, I need to see it. If you're responding to a complaint, I have the right to know what it is. Hanson's jaw tightened. You're obstructing. I'm exercising my 4th Amendment rights. The words landed with precision. Clinical. Exact. Not angry. Not defiant. Just factual. Hanson took a breath. His hand moved to his radio. You want to do this the hard way? I'm not doing anything. You walked into my business without legal justification and demanded access to private areas. That's not lawful. I'll decide what's lawful. No, Amina said quietly. The Constitution decides that. The air in the room changed. The 2 customers exchanged glances. One of them had pulled out a phone, holding it low, screen glowing. Amina noticed but didn't acknowledge it. Hanson noticed too. His posture shifted. Slightly defensive now. Put the phone away, he said to the customer. The customer didn't move. I said put it away. They're allowed to record, Amina said. This is a public accommodation. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy. Hanson's face flushed. Not quite anger. Not quite embarrassment. Something between the two. He looked at Amina again, and this time the assessment was different. He was realizing slowly that this wasn't going to be easy, but he had already committed, already made demands, already escalated, and backing down now would look like weakness. So he doubled down. Fine, he said. We'll do this officially. He reached for his radio, and Amina reached for her phone. Hanson keyed his radio. The static crackle cut through the jazz music like a blade. Control, this is 5 Charlie 19. I need a supervisor at 2847 Nicollet. Business owner refusing lawful commands. Amina didn't flinch. She kept her phone in her hand, screen facing Hanson, recording light visible. I'm not refusing commands. I'm asking for legal justification, which you haven't provided. Hanson ignored her. He walked toward the kitchen door, the swinging double door with the small circular window, and pushed it open with his palm. You can't go back there without a warrant or exigent circumstances, Amina said, her voice rising slightly but still controlled. I just did. Hanson disappeared into the kitchen. The two customers sat frozen. One of them whispered something. The server reappeared from the back hallway, eyes wide, phone also out now. Amina moved quickly but didn't run. She followed Hanson through the door. The kitchen was narrow. Stainless steel prep tables lined one wall. A 6-burner gas range sat against the other. The air was warmer here, dense with the residual heat of the evening service. The smell of clarified butter and burnt garlic clung to the ventilation hood. A single fluorescent fixture buzzed overhead, casting harsh white light on every surface. Hanson was opening the walk-in cooler. Officer, you are conducting an illegal search. Amina's voice was louder now, but still precise. This is a Fourth Amendment violation. I am not consenting. I am documenting this. Hanson glanced at her phone. His expression was contemptuous. You think that scares me? Record whatever you want. I'm doing my job. Your job does not include warrantless searches of private property. I have reasonable suspicion. Of what? Health code violations. Based on what articulable facts? Hanson stopped. He turned to face her fully. The cooler door hung open behind him, cold air spilling into the kitchen, fogging slightly in the humidity. Articulable facts? He laughed short, sharp, dismissive. You've been watching too much TV. It's a legal standard. Terry versus Ohio. You need specific, articulable facts to justify a search. What are they? Hanson's smile faded. I don't need to justify anything to you. Yes, you do. You're acting under color of law. That means your authority is limited by constitutional constraints. If you exceed those constraints, you're not enforcing the law, you're violating it. The words hit like stones. Clean, heavy, undeniable. Hanson's jaw worked. He turned back to the cooler and began moving containers, lifting lids, inspecting contents. He pulled out a covered pan, removed the lid, sniffed. What is this? Marinated lamb. How long has it been in here? Since this morning. It's dated and labeled. You can see the tag. Hanson set it down without looking at the tag. He moved to the dry storage area, a wire shelving unit in the corner stacked with flour, rice, canned tomatoes. He picked up a bag of basmati rice, turned it over, examined the label. This isn't from an approved distributor. Yes, it is. That's a commercial product from a licensed wholesaler. The invoice is in the office. I'll need to see that invoice. Not without a warrant. Hanson's hand tightened on the rice bag. He set it down harder than necessary. The sound echoed in the small space. You're making this very difficult. I'm exercising my rights. You're being uncooperative. Those aren't the same thing. Hanson stepped closer. Not quite threatening, but close. The kitchen was narrow enough that the movement felt invasive. Amina didn't back up. She held the phone steady between them, the lens pointed at his chest, capturing everything. Let me explain something to you, Hanson said, his voice low, patronizing. I've been doing this for 9 years. I know what I'm allowed to do. And right now, I'm allowed to inspect this kitchen because I have reasonable suspicion of code violations. You haven't articulated any. I don't have to. Yes, you do. United States versus Sokolow. Reasonable suspicion requires specific, articulable facts. You keep saying you have suspicion, but you haven't named a single fact supporting it. Hanson's face flushed deeper now. The red crept up from his collar, staining his neck. You people always think you know better than the cops. The phrase hung in the air, heavy, unmistakable. You people. Amina's expression didn't change, but her thumb moved slightly on the phone screen, ensuring the recording was still active. What do you mean, you people? Business owners. Always arguing. That's not what you meant. Hanson's radio crackled again. 5 Charlie 19 Sergeant Novak is en route. ETA 4 minutes. Copy, Hanson said into the radio. He looked back at Amina. You can explain yourself to my supervisor. I'll be happy to. Hanson moved toward the office door. A small room adjacent to the kitchen, barely large enough for a desk and filing cabinet. The door was closed. He reached for the handle. That's a private office. You absolutely cannot enter without a warrant. Hanson opened the door anyway. The office was cramped. A metal desk held a laptop, a stack of invoices, a coffee mug with cold dregs at the bottom. A corkboard on the wall displayed the restaurant's business license, health inspection certificate, liquor license. Everything visible. Everything in order. Hanson sat down at the desk. He opened the laptop. Do not touch that. I'm investigating. You're conducting an illegal search of digital property. That laptop is password protected. You have no authority. I'm not accessing files. I'm just looking. That's still a search. Fourth Amendment protections apply to digital devices. Riley versus California. Hanson stopped. His hand hovered over the keyboard. He looked at Amina, and for the first time, something like uncertainty crossed his face. But it passed quickly, replaced by irritation. You really think citing cases makes you a lawyer? I think citing cases demonstrates that I know my rights, and you're violating them. The front door chimed. Heavy footsteps. A deeper voice called out, MPD. Who's back here? Kitchen, Hanson called back. Sergeant Paul Novak appeared in the doorway. He was older, mid-50s, gray at the temples, the kind of cop who looked tired even when he wasn't. His eyes swept the scene. Hanson at the desk, Amina standing in the doorway with her phone raised, the kitchen behind her in disarray from Hanson's search. What's going on? Novak asked. Hanson stood. Owners refusing to cooperate with an inspection. I'm refusing an illegal search, Amina corrected. He has no warrant, no probable cause, no exigent circumstances. He forced entry into my kitchen, my cooler, and my office without legal justification. Novak looked at Hanson. What's the basis for the search? Health code concerns. From what? Hanson hesitated. Just a beat. But it was enough. Novak's expression hardened. Derek, what's the basis? Anonymous complaint. Where's the report? It was verbal. Over the phone. Novak exhaled slowly. He looked at Amina. Ma'am, I apologize for the confusion. We'll step outside and sort this out. There's no confusion, Amina said. There's a constitutional violation. And I have it on video. Novak's eyes flicked to the phone, then back to Hanson. Outside. Now. They moved into the dining room. The 2 customers were still there, phones out, recording. The server stood near the bar, arms crossed. Novak positioned himself between Hanson and Amina, his body language already shifting into damage control mode. Ma'am, I understand you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm documenting civil rights violations. Novak paused. Let's take a breath. Officer Hanson may have been overzealous, but he wasn't overzealous. He was illegal. He conducted a warrantless search without probable cause, exigent circumstances, or consent. He ignored my repeated assertions of Fourth Amendment rights. He accessed a private office and attempted to search a password-protected device. He used racially coded language. And he did all of it on camera. Novak's jaw tightened. Racially coded language? You people. It's on video. Hanson stepped forward. That's not what I meant. It doesn't matter what you meant, Amina said. It matters what you said. And what you did. Novak held up a hand. Okay, let's all calm down. Ma'am, what's your name? Amina Osman. Novak pulled out a notepad, started writing. And you own this restaurant? Yes. How long? 3 years. Any prior issues with police? No. Any prior health code violations? No. Novak nodded, still writing. Okay, Ms. Osman, I'll be filing a report on this incident. If you want to make a formal complaint, you can do that through our Office of Police Conduct Review. I'll give you the information. Amina reached into her pocket. She pulled out a business card. She handed it to Novak. He looked at it. His face went blank. The card was simple. White stock. Black text. Amina Osman, ESQ Civil Rights Attorney, Minnesota, ACLU. Legal Director Specialization. Police Misconduct. Section 1983 claims. Novak stared at the card. His lips parted slightly. No words came out. Hanson leaned over, looked at the card. His expression collapsed. Color draining, eyes widening, the arrogance evaporating like steam. I've been an attorney for 6 years, Amina said, her voice still calm, still controlled. I took the bar while finishing my culinary degree. I opened this restaurant because I wanted to, not because I had to. Novak's hand holding the card trembled. Just slightly. I specialize in Fourth Amendment violations and qualified immunity cases. Amina continued. I've litigated 17 Section 1983 claims against law enforcement. I've won 14. 3 settled before trial. The median settlement was $340,000. Hanson took a step back. His hand moved to his radio, then dropped. I know Terry. I know Sokolow. I know Riley. I know Peyton, Welsh, Kylo, and every other search and seizure case relevant to this interaction. Amina's eyes moved from Novak to Hanson. I know the Minneapolis Police Department's policy manual. Section 5 to 311 on warrantless searches. Section 5 to 105 on procedural justice. Section 2 to 102 on bias-based policing. Silence. The jazz music had stopped. No one had noticed when. I didn't need to tell you any of this, Amina said, because my rights don't depend on my profession. But now you know. And now you understand what you've done. Novak opened his mouth, closed it. He looked at Hanson, and the look was not anger, it was horror. The kind of horror that comes from knowing instantly and completely that something irreversible has just occurred. Hanson stood motionless. His arrogance was gone. His condescension was gone. What remained was the pale, hollow realization of a man who had just destroyed his own career. Get out of my restaurant, Amina said. They left. The video went public within 72 hours. Not by Amina, by one of the customers who had recorded the encounter. It appeared on Twitter first, then Reddit, then local news picked it up. By the end of the week, it had been viewed 2.3 million times. The footage was damning, crystal clear, every word audible, every violation visible. Hanson's "You People" comment became a clip played on loop. The Minneapolis Police Department issued a statement within 48 hours. Standard language about reviewing the incident, taking all complaints seriously, commitment to constitutional policing. The words were hollow. Everyone knew it. But inside the department, the reaction was different. Sergeant Novak filed his report the night of the incident. It was thorough, unusually so. He documented every statement Amina made, every legal citation, every moment Hanson ignored her assertions of rights. He attached his own observations. Officer Hanson proceeded with search despite clear articulation of Fourth Amendment objections. No warrant, no exigent circumstances, no consent. Subject identified herself as civil rights attorney specializing in police misconduct litigation. That last line detonated like a grenade in the chain of command. By Monday morning, the report had reached the desk of Deputy Chief Angela Reyes. She read it twice. Then she walked down the hall to the city attorney's office and dropped a printed copy on the desk of Thomas Lindholm, the lead civil litigator for the city. Lindholm read it once. His stomach dropped. "How bad?" Reyes asked. Lindholm didn't answer immediately. He reread the section where Amina cited case law. He reread the description of Hanson opening the laptop. He reread the "you people" line. "Catastrophic," he finally said. "Can we defend it?" "No. At all." Angela, she's a Section 1983 attorney. She knows this area better than I do. She cited controlling precedent in real time while being illegally searched. The video shows her calm, compliant, and legally precise. It shows Hanson dismissive, racially biased, and constitutionally ignorant. Lindholm leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "We have no defense. None. If this goes to trial, we lose. Badly. What's the exposure?" Lindholm did the math in his head. Fourth Amendment violation, that's the base claim. Add in racially biased policing under Minnesota statute. Add in emotional distress. She's got video evidence, credibility, and she's the plaintiff and the attorney. Juries love that. He paused. Conservative estimate? $3 million. But if she's good, and I'm guessing she is, she'll push for $5 million or more. Reyes closed her eyes. "Get me a number we can settle at." "She won't settle low." "Try." The city's insurance carrier was contacted the same day. They reviewed the video. They reviewed Hanson's personnel file, 17 prior complaints, none sustained. They reviewed the department's training records on constitutional policing. They reviewed everything. Then they called Lindholm back. "We're not going to trial," the claims adjuster said. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone delivering a terminal diagnosis. "This is indefensible. The officers on video violating clearly established law. The plaintiff is a civil rights attorney who articulated those violations in real time. We're exposed on compensatory and punitive damages. Settle it." "At what number?" "Whatever it takes." Lindholm called Amina's office 3 weeks later. The conversation was brief. He opened with an apology, formal, lawyerly, meaningless. Then he made an offer, $1.2 million. Amina declined. He called back a week later. $2.5 million. She declined again. The third call came from the insurance company directly. They didn't negotiate. They didn't posture. They simply said, "What do you want?" Amina's response was precise. $4.7 million. Admission of liability. Mandatory retraining for the entire precinct on Fourth Amendment search protocols. Officer Hanson's termination. Body camera footage of the incident released to the public with no redactions. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "We'll get back to you." They called back in 6 hours. Agreed. The settlement was finalized in November, 8 weeks after the incident. The city admitted no wrongdoing in the public statement, but the insurance payout and the policy changes told the real story. Hanson was terminated before the settlement was signed. His personnel file was flagged. Not eligible for rehire. Constitutional violations. The money was secondary. Amina donated $1 million of it to a legal defense fund for small business owners facing police overreach. She kept the rest, not as profit but as a reminder. A reminder that the system had tried to crush her, and she had crushed it back. But the real consequence wasn't financial. It was the silence in the briefing room when body camera policies changed. It was the uncomfortable shuffling when constitutional training became mandatory. It was the knowledge, spreading quietly through the department, that the old assumptions, compliance, deference, submission were no longer guaranteed. Because someone had said no, and won. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom. Officer Hanson wasn't uniquely malicious. He wasn't an outlier. He was the product of a system that had taught him, through years of unchallenged authority, that his judgment superseded the Constitution, that his suspicion justified intrusion, that resistance was guilt. He believed it because the system rewarded him for believing it. 17 complaints. 0 discipline. 9 years of walking into businesses, demanding compliance, and facing no consequences when he overstepped. Until he walked into the wrong business. The Minneapolis Police Department updated its training protocols. Officers now receive annual refreshers on Fourth Amendment law. Supervisors are required to review body camera footage of all searches conducted without warrants. Civilian oversight expanded. Policy manuals were revised. But policies are just words on paper. The real question is whether anything changes when the camera isn't rolling. When the business owner isn't a civil rights attorney. When the victim doesn't know the law well enough to cite it. What happens then? Amina's case succeeded because she had knowledge, resources, and credibility. She knew her rights. She knew the case law. She knew how to document, how to articulate, how to dismantle an illegal search in real time. Most people don't. Most people fold. Most people open the door, answer the questions, consent to the search because they believe they have to. Because they've been conditioned to believe that authority is absolute. That refusal is guilt. That knowing your rights is suspicious. And the system depends on that belief. It depends on people not knowing, not questioning, not recording. It depends on compliance. Bistro Marais is still open. The restaurant survived the publicity, the legal battle, the weight of becoming a symbol. Amina still owns it. She still cooks. She still serves lamb marinated in cardamom and lemon. Still folds cloth napkins. Still greets customers by name. But now, mounted near the host stand, is a small framed card. It lists 4 things every person should know. You have the right to refuse a search without a warrant. You do not have to answer questions beyond identifying yourself. You can record police interactions in public spaces. Saying, "I do not consent," is not obstruction. Customers see it. Some photograph it. Some ask about it. Amina explains, calmly, factually, what happened, what she learned, what everyone should know. The card is simple, but it represents something larger. It represents the fragile, critical space between power and accountability. And it forces a question that has no easy answer. If this can happen to a civil rights attorney, someone who knew the law, who cited case law in real time, who recorded everything and still had to fight for nearly 2 months to get justice, what happens to everyone else? What happens when you don't know the law? When you can't afford to fight? When no one is recording? What happens then?